Okay, hi. I would like to open this video up by saying thank you so much to the 100 or so people that for some reason have already subscribed to this channel. We are not experts, we are not experienced, we are just super normal guys in our late 20s and early 30s dealing with male pattern baldness just like the rest of you who really enjoy shooting, talking about shooting, and somehow trying to get better at shooting while only being able to realistically hit the range once or twice a month because unlike other people on YouTube, we actually lose a tremendous amount of money by doing this. Even though 100 subscribers is nothing in the grand scheme or even minor scheme of YouTube, just putting in perspective a room full of 100 of you saying, hey, this is interesting to me, I'll give you more of my time, is really humbling to us. So I want to say thank you to anyone and everyone watching. I do want to get this out of the way first. A lot of what we see on YouTube in this current generation of firearms culture is catered towards how can you be an operator when we as civilians have to train differently from the military. I don't have supply lines if I run out of ammo. I don't have a squad to provide cover fire if I find myself in a mass shooting. I don't have millions of dollars to construct a replica building that I know I'm going to be fighting in so that I can train for every corner and exit. Hear me when I say this, the you can be an operator mentality is 100% geared towards selling you stuff.
Slow breathe, slow breathe.
Exhale, shoot on the exhale.
So here's the question, how do you get good? I'm of the opinion that getting a group of like-minded dudes together is the best way to train because you're naturally going to get competitive and that's how you'll thrive. If you get roasted by your buddies for your shooting, that's going to do more for your growth than going to a range by yourself, shooting 50 rounds into one target and then going home.
Because we've been seriously training together maybe for a year and a half. How have we collectively gotten better in that year? Because this is actually funny. The video footage I'm using that's going to go over all of this, it's pulling heavily from the first time we ever shot together. And, it's filmed crazy good because we brought all the production equipment. But looking at myself from that day, dude, I hardly knew how to shoot at all. The AR I had, I was like, the way I was holding it, I cringe. I had the hand stop on it. It was this tiny little hand stop and I was gripping the bottom of the hand stop.
Nothing. Maybe I am garbage.
Watching the way I was shooting a year and a half ago to some of the footage of me shooting recently, I'm like, holy crap, I've progressed a lot in a year. And how do you guys feel about that? Because Dalton, you were already a really good shooter when we shot a year and a half ago, but I feel like we've all grown a lot.
Definitely. It just touches back to I manipulate and train with my guns for fun. I'll do it at the house. I don't have to fire any rounds to do that. I enjoy reloading. I enjoy transitioning from rifle to pistol. I enjoy wearing kit and manipulating it. And that all translates. That's why it looks fluid for me more so than it did for you in the beginning. But lo and behold, last time we just trained, you looked just as good as I look because you're training. And Harrison, you were saying earlier that when you started training, you had a concealed carry holster that you were drawing from at the range. Fundamentally, I think that is the best form of training you can do.
I can hand someone a rifle who's never shot in their life and they'll be able to hit steel at 100 yards. Give that same person a Glock, point them at a target 10 yards away, you'd be lucky to get 5 out of 10 impacts. But that's why you need to train. Your ability to be situationally aware, draw, fire quickly and accurately with the Shield Plus that you bought for your wife will vastly eclipse the usefulness of the Sig Rattler in your backpack. Train pistol. I'm not saying don't train rifle. Rifle skills are extremely important, but you'll find that every range day starts with, hey, let's do pistol warm-ups, and then after everyone is silently embarrassed by their groups past 7 yards, someone's gonna say, okay, you wanna do rifles now? And then you'll spend 95% of the day shooting rifles.
For me personally, I have a pretty high priority for armor because my background's in firefighting and EMS. And as of this year, we have department issued ballistic vests that are 3A coverage. So it's all soft core body armor.
What is that, to a 44? It goes up to 44, right?
I think so. I don't know how many rounds, but it is front and back coverage, side plates with trauma pads.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for the record, y'all aren't, you can't carry on the job, right?
No, we do not carry. And they removed the fire marshal's office. We used to have guys on the department that could carry, like our investigators, but that is now fully under the police department. We actually have SOPs in place for wearing armor into certain situations, especially for EMS medical runs.
Once again, it just keeps coming full circle back to what are you training for? So armor is not as important to me or Harrison, but to you, armor is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for you to train with some sort of kit bearing armor, if for no other reason than the weight and the cumbersome nature of it, because it's bulky.
Yeah.
And you have to train through those things.
You don't appreciate how nice it is to work. And when I say work, I mean doing anything, manipulating a gun, providing medical aid, driving while wearing kit. You don't appreciate how nice it is to do that in regular clothes until you put that vest on. And then you've got to lean over at 1 o'clock in the morning in the dark to, plug a GSW.
What do you need to train? What's the bare minimum? I'm kind of a minimalist. I think the most you need to be productive is a rifle with a sling and a pistol with a concealed carry holster, and that's it. I think just let's view this as the perspective of like a new shooter who bought their first, let's say they bought their first AR and Glock, and they're like, I want to go train, but I watch, so I feel like I need to invest $3,000 into kit. Like, what would you tell that person?
You need a pistol, a concealed carry holster, and 1 extra mag.
No rifle.
I don't think so. I mean, if you can afford it, that's great. If you can justify it, that's even better. If you've got a holster, 2 mags, and time when you're sitting in front of the computer, sitting in front of the TV, you can dry fire, you can carry. There's the basics can and should be done with the bare minimum, because most people are only ever going to have the bare minimum on them.
I kind of view kit in 2 categories. There are things you can buy that require training and things you can buy that will just make you better. And like, I have some props. Night vision. So night vision, super freaking cool. I think we can all agree when we trained with this, it was one of the hardest things we've ever done in our life to even be able to like touch our weapons and move around in the dark. And so these things like work together to facilitate each other, because like the range that I train at up here, if we want to train with night vision, I realize we need to run suppressed and subsonic so that we don't piss off the neighbors. The suppressor is going to require training because I need to be able to quickly attach that to the rifle. I'm going to have to learn the capability of 300 blackout with subs versus supers. Whereas stuff like this that I just got in, I finally splurged and bought 2
look at you.
Yeah, I got 2 nicer pistol mag holsters because my gun belt, the crappy 511 pistol holsters, any pistol mag, like Glock mags, my FN mags, any of them would just fall out because they're not fitted. They're just kind of like one size fits all. And so you guys have seen me, like if I'm at the range and I move faster than a brisk walk, I'm throwing pistol mags. So like kit like this, like I can shake this and that's not going anywhere. Awesome. This is going to make me this makes me a better shooter, like immediately, because it is helpful. Whereas kit like night vision or even a suppressor, that's something I have to train to get good with, versus kit that's like immediately practical. This just automatically makes me better because I can run around without throwing mags all over the range.
Yes.
And so I think kit, I view it in 2 categories like that. And so there's kit you can buy that you have to train to get good with, versus kit you can buy that just automatically helps you out.
That is a beautiful point that I want to touch on. Exactly what you just said. There's person A has a Palmetto State Armory dagger. It doesn't have to look Gucci'd out like this. Person B has a $1,000 P320, right? This is more than double this. Person A with this dagger trains, goes out and shoots once a month, puts 1,000 rounds through it every time. He has time on the gun. He's cleared malfunctions. He's shot targets. He's changed, reload. Person B, truck gun. I will take that guy with that Palmetto State Armory dagger 10 out of 10 times over the P320 guy, because there are quality products at affordable prices, and the more expensive gun does not make you the better shooter. Getting behind the gun and shooting it makes you a better shooter.
Now, here's the thing. Most of us don't have land. You out west guys are blessed beyond belief with BLM land, and I don't think you know how much anyone east of the Mississippi is jealous of you. Most of us don't have a farm or acreage enough to shoot on, but you probably know somebody who does. Do what you can to be in their good graces, whether it's trading skilled labor, offering to leave your steel targets so they can shoot, or help marry their daughter. If you're the winning combination of autistic enough to be obsessive but social enough to make friends, you can find land access. Look at local national forests and check with the rangers for spots you can shoot. Most states have WMA Wildlife Management Area ranges where you can buy a $15 permit and that lets you shoot for free for a year. Well, for $15. It can be done. So once you have land access, what do? I can tell you from experience, you don't text everybody you know with a say, hey, let's all go shoot this Saturday, because that quickly devolves into 8 guys all mag dumping their firearms as fast as they can and nothing productive happens. Start small, bring 1 or 2 people that actually want to learn and improve. If it's only you, that's okay and potentially better, because you'll be free to run the same damn drill over and over and over for 2 hours without anyone saying, I want to do something else.
We've trained a decent bit together, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, sometimes like 8 people over the last year and a half. And so I just want to go into like tips for that person who, you know, they've got a Glock, they've got an AR, and they're like, I want to start training. We've kind of figured out a lot of things to help facilitate that, because we've done a lot of things wrong. I think we've started to do some things right, and we've learned a lot. What's the ideal group size to train with? Let's say we've got 1 day, which realistically means half a day. Let's say 6 to 7 hours to train with the boys. What's the ideal group size?
Mine's going to be brutal. 4 or less. I think 5 is doable. It takes time away from other people on the trigger. It becomes crowded. I feel less safe, to be honest. We've done groups all the way up to 8, and it felt like those days were, as far as training, they were a wash. They were fun, but I didn't get a lot of value out of them.
Either 1 to 3. Like if you're training by yourself, that's great. 2 people's great. Personally, if you're running drills, if you're running training drills or a course, I personally really like having that third set of eyes for a safety perspective. So somebody saying shooter ready, shooter understand the course, fire. The person behind them, a lot of times they're going to be watching. They're going to be looking at somebody's feet placement on the firing line. They're going to turn around to look at the guy who's sitting by his truck to get a bottle of water and see that he doesn't have ear pro on. So stuff like that. I like having that third person.
I've just found anytime we have 5+ people, it devolves into like, let's mag dump as fast as we can,
Yes.
all at once. Like keep that group really freaking small, like
Yes.
4 at most.
Yes, 4 good shooters that have an understanding of their firearms. But if you are bringing new people in, as we like to do, it makes a divide of what we're training for. The newer people have to learn how to put the safety on a rifle when they bring it down, or to keep ear pro on when someone's shooting, like Knight was saying. Whereas us, it's almost muscle memory at this point. We train together, we're comfortable with each other, and we're trying to sharpen more more advanced skills. We are by no means elite.
Let's say you don't have land access and you're stuck at that WMA range. While not ideal, you can make progress at ranges like this. I have a WMA range close-ish to my house, and if I have a free morning to go shoot, it's sometimes peaceful and, more importantly, productive to go shoot by myself. When shooting at ranges like this, you're likely going to be confined to a single bay with limited targets that are probably directly in front of you. This is obviously not the time to train switching between targets or moving and shooting. This is the time to train your fundamentals. No matter how good you think you are, you can always benefit from practicing with your handgun. These range sessions are the perfect time to take that one quote-unquote easy drill that you suck at and run it for 3 hours straight. You'll quickly learn that you get fatigued from shooting the same thing over and over, and that's not something you typically have to deal with if you're just out with the boys. Doing this, I've shot anywhere from 100 to 500 rounds of 9mm in a session. I know what you're thinking, ammo's expensive, and yes, while that is true, 9mm is also on the cheaper side of things, and if you budget and buy in bulk, you'll be able to make it happen. I have friends that complain about ammo prices limiting their training, and then when I add up the amount of Zen they buy in a month and show them that they could have bought 500 to 1,000 rounds, they suddenly don't complain so much anymore. A really boring part of training that we don't talk about is that you need to have your finances in order. Your stockpile of 10 rifle and pistol loadouts is a fantastic investment for the end of the world, but as of recording this, the world currently hasn't ended, and we all have bills to pay. It's boring, but the biggest part of your preparedness should be financial preparedness, because without that, you are going to be vastly disadvantaged when it comes to the ability to train. A $300 a month car payment isn't bad, but being able to sink that $300 a month on ammo is fantastic. I know that's extremely lame, but let's call it dad advice, and I don't even take steroids. So you've got somewhere to shoot, you somehow against all odds have friends, but now what? Buy steel and cardboard targets. I would rank owning a set of targets and stands over buying a third gun any day of the week. Steel is great for distance, but paper will get you accurate. I cannot count the amount of range days I show up to where my collection of scrap wood, toolkit, and steel targets are single-handedly what makes the day happen. As soon as the range day devolves into shooting at random stuff, you may as well go home.
What are the best things that we've found over the last year to bring with you to the range that help make the day happen? Like Sharpies, tape to tape over targets, because when we shoot those USPSA targets or whatever they are, if you don't have tape or a Sharpie, you really only get like 2 to 3 runs at those targets before there's so many holes you can't see where you're shooting, versus if you just have a Sharpie to mark the hits or you have tape to tape over them, you can essentially use it like 50 times before it's just completely destroyed. Yeah. And so I've got this whole list of things that before I go to a range day, I'm like, we need post hole diggers that I'm going to throw in the back of my truck, because if we have targets but the ground is too hard, like we're screwed. Duct tape, clamps, like you can go to Walmart and get a set of plastic clamps for $4. Just water bottles for everybody. Like, what are the things that you would bring to facilitate a range day that somebody is not going to think of?
4 things. Well, 5 things. Your guns, your ammo, water, nicotine, alcohol.
I knew he was going to say alcohol. I knew it.
No, but
y'all are wild.
No, I mean, I'm just kidding around. But I mean, yeah, I pretty much agree with you on everything. There's some more specialized stuff. A toolbox with just like a standard set of tools.
Wire cutters for sure.
Yeah, wire cutters. You might, depending on where you're shooting, you might need hedge trimmers, just like hedge clippers to cut down branches to get them out of the way. If you're not at a range and you're shooting like on a piece of farmland like we are, yeah. So just like a regular toolbox. We learned last range day that not having your repair kits and cleaning kits can cause some pretty major problems. Harrison's younger brother recently got his first pistol and first AR and had a debilitating range day malfunction where it
double fed his AR. Double fed. It was a Radical Firearms AR-15, which, for the record, that same AR was my first ever AR. I ended up selling that later. We're back to the shop, but I never had any problems with mine, so I'm not like slamming Radical. I've put probably 1,000 rounds through mine with no problems. He got his, I think, used, and so who knows the condition it was in.
Yeah,
but
probably a lack of cleaning, carbon buildup, a bad mag. It's hard to say.
Bad ammo,
but
could be.
Yeah, he had one of the worst double feeds I'd ever seen, and none of us brought any of our cleaning kits, and so we had a cartridge shoved way into the barrel that we had pliers, but that wasn't able to do anything. And so if we would have brought our cleaning kit with us, we just could have got the barrel snake and just gotten it out of there.
Dang, Dalton, you looking juicy.
What's our opinions on standardization across equipment? Because we have like wildly different weapons platforms, but we all have a striker fired pistol and an AR style rifle. You used to run your AK all the time. But we kind of ran into the point where we're like, hey, we trust Taylor a lot. Taylor's, I mean, he's one of my best friends in the world. And he wants to get better, but it's like, are we putting him at a disadvantage if we're like, hey, right now you're going to use a Tavor, and then you're going to use an AK, and then you're going to use an AR. And so for someone who's just starting off to learn, he's like, well, these are all wildly different, and it can get really confusing, and you don't get muscle memory. Versus just like, hey, now all of our guns kind of work the same way. And so if you get good at the spear, you're going to be good at an AR-15, and you're going to be good at the Virtus.
There is no comparison. An AR platform, we're just going to say AR-15 for the sake of the sake. An AR-15 and a striker fired pistol will most likely a Glock. The modularity of an AR platform is second to none. That is why I could hand it to my sister. I could tell her to take the mag out, and in 3 or 4 seconds, she's gonna figure out how to do it. But there is no world where I'll be faster with a Tavor or an AK or an MP5 than I am with an AR. ARs are set up to be fast and shootable, and they're set up for the average person, the dummy, if you will, to be able to be proficient with it.
Well, and I'll argue with you on that a little bit, because I was really fast with my Tavor. Very, very fast, like faster than I was with ARs. But the reason I traded it in and put that money into my Rattler that I'm working on building, I just got tired of, like, the Tavor was my extra gun that I would always hand off to like Taylor or somebody else that they could run. And every single time I would cringe because I was like, they don't know how to, like, they don't even know how to put the mag in. They don't like, and I was really fast at it, but I'm like, if I'm giving this gun to somebody to train on, there's no point to it, because I'm gonna have to spend so much time instructing versus just, oh, hey, here's an extra AR, take it. It works the same as everything else.
Yes. And that's not on them. That's not anybody's fault.
No, not at all.
Having some standardization across the board just really, really helps everybody. And two, like, I mean, like, even if Taylor didn't have past experience, can figure out how to handle most standard striker fire pistols and AR platforms.
Yeah.
That's all kinds of fucked up.
Your first mag was loaded.
Course of fire? He does.
We have established between the three of us a very consistent set of, like, safety rules. Hot range, cold. If anybody needs to take ears off, they yell range cold. Every single person who hears that has to yell range cold and wait for confirmation. If anybody is shooting, you yell range hot. You look around to see visible confirmation that everybody else has reciprocated that and put ears on. We always have, like, a firing line that we draw in the dirt, and it's like, unless we are doing something very specific, nobody is going to be past that line unless they are running a drill.
Yes.
So
shooter ready.
Yeah, the commands
we're
we do.
prepared to shoot.
Yeah, so it's as simple as, like, and I used to work at, like, a summer camp, and it reminds me a lot of when we would do the ropes course, because someone would be climbing and you'd have to say, like, climber ready. They'd say ready, belay ready, and you're on the rope and you say belay ready, ready to climb on, and they would say climb on, and they would start going up the rock wall. So you don't have to have that exact set of safety rules, but as a general rule of practice, if you're going to do a range day with buddies, like, drill into everyone's head that, like, hey, these are the rules. And whenever we have somebody new come out with us, we take a good few minutes and go, hey, we're pretty chill, but here are the rules. This is the line in the dirt. Like, this is what you have to do. I really want to touch on, like, how lucky we are that when we train with you and Taylor, you guys professionally administer first aid to people. So not our most recent range day, but the one before that, like, we spent a good couple hours on, like, applying tourniquets and, like, hey, here's what it's like to actually drag a 200-pound man like a far distance, and, like, what that's going to be like. Yeah, Dalton threw his back out, dragging me.
You guys are gonna die
but-
if I have to drag you. Now we know that.
Yeah,
Big boy.
Taylor's like Taylor's a big boy.
he's a foot taller than me with like 40 or 50 pounds of pure muscle on me.
Yeah, big guy.
And Andy was wearing steel plates. And so when I picked him up, I had bruising on my forearms for like a week.
Oh yeah, I was bruised.
Well, and like we were putting tourniquets on each other, and I think so many people, they buy a couple tourniquets and they're like, all right, I'm good.
You don't know what it feels like.
Oh,
If you're doing pre-hospital care, anything under 2 hours on a tourniquet, probably going to be fine. If it's going to take you 2 hours, if you're having to apply a tourniquet and then get transported 2 hours to the nearest trauma center, you're probably fucked anyway.
great.
But yeah,
Great.
I think the new standard is that anything less than really like 2 hours, preferably an hour. Most transport times are going to be somewhere between 7 to 15 minutes to a hospital.
To speak back to that range day where we were running with you and Taylor and learning medical tricks and our IFACs and all that, that was probably the best training day I've had in a very long time, just because of the new knowledge that I was receiving. I learned how inferior my medical setup was. I have since improved it. And that is functional knowledge. It's not just running and gunning, displacing and laying down suppressing fire. It's, hey, we're in a fighting situation. My buddy is hurt. I have to get to him. I have to get the bleeding to stop. I have to get him somewhere safe. That is more realistic to me than most of the things we're doing out there.
Well, that's about it for this one. I wanted to make a video that emphasizes what we're about, and it's not trying to sell you gear. It's about normal dudes trying to improve their shooting and offer things that we've learned along the way that helped. Please dive into the comments and offer us advice. We're idiots. We probably need it.